Listen to this episode if you have ever wondered why some brands win and some brands seem to just fizzle out or never actually gain real mass market traction. Today we're talking about one of my absolute favorite conversations. Today we're talking about building brand. We're not talking about building, finding the colors, finding the fonts. We're talking about building an ecosystem around your brand. This is one of my favorite things to do with people because it really helps you stand out from the crowd. There are so many products out there. It's actually really hard to innovate in 2025 because there are so many iterations of everything you can find on the internet. Whether there's a dupe on Alibaba or on Amazon or on Etsy, there's a ton of people selling something similar to you, whatever that might be. It's really hard to create something brand new. So how you actually stand out from saturation or from other people that are selling something similar, what you have to do is you're actually building brand in order to stand out. So if you want to sell more products, go mass market, build your business to be like a lifestyle household name, what you have to do is focus on building brand. So first things first is I want to talk about what is brand, how do you do it, what does it take, and then we're going to give some examples of brands that I think are really winning, that are kind of recent, they're kind of up and coming, that are really winning and really doing this really well, and what really are they doing. First things first, I just want to take 10 quick seconds to say hello. If you're brand new here, my name is Madison Page. I am a business growth specialist. I help product-based business owners build their brands online by building a ride or die online community around their brand, their message, their products that they have. I like to teach in a fun conversational type of way. I like to say it's kind of like sipping coffee with a biz bestie. So we sit here and have a genuine business conversation as if we were sitting at a coffee shop, chit-chatting away, sipping over our honey lavender lattes, which are my absolute favorite right now. We are going to be diving into this conversation. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. We put out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. I'm so happy that you're here, really happy that you found the podcast, and get ready to get binging because we have 350 plus hours of business information out there for you on this podcast. And if you aren't new here, I saw a statistic that 45% of you only are subscribed to the podcast, which means a lot of you are coming back each and every week and not actually subscribed. So if that is you, save yourself some time, help me out. It helps push my episodes out to other people. It helps other people get this information as well as it helps you not have to tippy tap all the way through to try to find the episode. If you find yourself coming back, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Let's talk about building brand. Brand is all about creating a certain feeling when people come in contact with you. So I want you to think of one of your favorite brands out there that you constantly go back to, that you're kind of obsessed with, whether you've purchased from them or not. Maybe it's an aspiring brand that you would love to buy from eventually. Maybe it's your favorite brand that you are brand loyal to, but that brand that you found that you were like, oh my gosh, this is made for me. Like this brand was made for me. I love everything. You could buy me anything at that store and I would be stoked. Like if somebody tells you, hey, what do you want for your birthday? Or like, what do you want for Christmas? You're like, literally buy me anything from this store and I would be happy because I just love everything about what they have to offer. That is what building brand is. It is building that obsess factor around the like connection with your product. So we're not talking about colors. We're not talking about fonts. We're not talking about logos today. We are talking about building brand. That is a brand identity. Yes, the colors and the fonts and all of that add to what we're talking about, but that is not the only piece of building brand. And honestly, in my opinion, the more important piece is really how people feel when they come into your brand ecosystem. What are the adjectives that they feel? And this is something I ask everybody when they start working with me is like, what are the adjectives you want people to feel when they come in contact with your brand? The ones I get all the time are like happy, secure, empowered, welcome, but those aren't what we're talking about. Yes, of course, we want people to feel happy. We want people to feel like they made a good purchase, but that is like selling to the features of your product. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to sell to the overall feeling around the brand. So we're talking groovy, we're talking sassy, we're talking bold, we're talking 80s. Like, how do people feel when they come in contact with your brand? And there's people across the board, there's brands out there across the board that really do this very well, that are very blatant. And what you're really trying to do is attract your certain ideal customer based on how they feel around your brand. So a really good example of this, and because I know my demographics of people that listen to this podcast, this brand is not made for you, but Pit Vipers. Pit Viper has made brand really, really well. And honestly, I think that's why they've withstood like those last couple of years. They've really kept their popularity up. Their brand is made for like teenage boys. It's very racy. It's very like skater boy. I don't love their brand. When I see it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, I'm almost like borderline offended by it until I realize what they're doing and I know the strategy. It's just like, it's kind of racy. It's kind of gross. It's like definitely made for like the teenage boy humor. Go look at their website, go look at their socials. It's just goofy. And it's because they are trying to attract their ideal customer, which is like boys between the age of 15 and probably 25 that are into the outdoors. They're probably either mountain biking, whatever. And I'm talking to somebody, you're talking to somebody right now that I bought a pair of Pit Vipers for my fiance because he loves them he's a wildland firefighter. So he fights wildfires and he loves them because they have such great like full eye protection. But I don't like the connotation that it feels when he wears them because it's associated with that brand. When you create brand, you're creating kind of a vibe of what it feels like for somebody to use your product. For me, I feel like the communication and the message that Pit Vipers is sharing is not one that I want my fiance to be sharing. However, he loves the product. So he is kind of against the grain there of like shopping because he likes the actual product itself. But the reason that I would never buy them for me, I would never buy them for truly anybody else unless it was for the tangible actual use of the product, is because of the brand that they have created. But that's because they didn't create the brand for me. I'm not wearing the glasses. They created them for like boys. They created them for boys and young men to wear when they're doing athletic things. However, it communicates that message throughout their branding. They communicate really well to their community. So the two major pieces that go into building brand aren't really what you think they are. First of all, is identifying the message that you're trying to communicate, whether you are communicating that you have the best non-toxic alternative, or you are communicating that this is like the size inclusive option for somewhere that doesn't have a size inclusive option or something like that. What is that overall message that you are like putting your stake into the ground at that your brand does better than everybody else? The second one is how are you making people feel when they come in contact with your brand? The most important thing that you're doing is you're making them feel the way that they want to feel when they utilize your product. What you have to do is really look at, okay, what are they currently doing to utilize my product? And how can I really shape the message around my brand throughout my marketing, throughout my website, throughout my emails, all of the different pieces in order to communicate that message. Another really great example that again is not the branding that is made for me is the Nutter Butter TikTok and Instagram. It literally looks like an acid trip. Like it is wild. Like it is literally just made for people being like, what the heck is going on here? To drum up some conversation. Go look at their Instagram or their TikTok. It's the Nutter Butters, which are delicious in their own right, but their marketing that they have started within the last couple of years, it really feels like very outlandish. And these are all very almost like dramatic examples to be able to kind of show you what that means. So you come in contact with that brand and you are either immediately polarized or you're immediately like, this is the best thing ever. And that is what you're trying to do with brand, because it's calling in the right people and it's repelling the people that are not going to want your product. And it's okay to repel people in your brand because we're trying to build a ride or die community. And you can't build a ride or die community trying to be a generalist and attracting everybody, because you have to be able to use use messaging that speaks to a very specific type of person. So go and look at Pit Viper's marketing, go and look at Nutter Butter's marketing, and you can see how different that is. For if Nutter Butter was an average business that you see out there on social media right now, that is a brand that probably isn't really going to stand out, they would just be saying like, you know, these wafers are like peanut butter goodness, dunk them in milk and like call it good, or like the perfect coffee snack or the perfect after dinner snack to watch a movie. Like that is just, it's so basic that it would blend in, but they stand out because they're doing something so outlandish. Now, you can do this in a lot of different ways. You can do this by just identifying your ideal customer and choosing a different feeling. So going back to the two major pieces here, you either can look at an industry, let's look at the candle industry, and you are just choosing the message that your brand has that is different than everybody else. So is your message about lighting this candle and making it like the pinnacle of your morning routine, and that everybody needs candles in their morning routine? That can be a message that you are sharing and that you are really talking about it. Or you can say, I made candles for pet homes that have dogs in them, that are natural for dogs. They're non-toxic to dogs because a lot of fragrances are toxic to dogs. So these are candles that are made for homes that have pets in them. Again, same product. You literally could have the exact same product, but it's messaged very differently. And then when we look at that second pillar, is how are we trying to make people feel? People aren't buying a candle for the actual like candle of it. Sure, some people are like, yeah, I want my house to smell great. That's awesome. But they aren't buying it for the actual, like, I want my house to smell great. They're buying it for the feeling that they feel when their house smells great. I went to one of my good friend's house last night for like a girls' night, Sunday evening. We hung out. We had the most delicious meal. We did like a sound bath, a meditation. It was incredible. And her home, I immediately walked in and was like, oh my gosh, your house just smells incredible. Like, what do you have in here? She's like, this is my cozy evening in vibe. She bought that candle because it reminded her of a cozy evening in. She's like, she literally said, I have no idea what it is. And she picked it up and looked at me because she doesn't care what the features of the candle are. She doesn't care if it's soy wax or whatever. She actually was a very clean living gal, so I'm sure it was very meticulously picked out, but she had no idea what the candle was. She just was like, I don't know, it just reminds me of a cozy evening in, and this is what I want. And so when you are building brand, you have to think about that instance. When people are thinking about buying your product, they buy because how it's going to make them feel when they use it, when they purchase it, what it signifies for that person. What message are you communicating? How are you attracting that certain person? And how can you pick the proper messaging on your videos, on your homepage, on your emails to elicit that marketing? Literally, 60 to 70% of marketing is just having really solid messaging. What is the message that you are trying to communicate, and how can we do that? So let's talk about what this takes. It takes three major pillars. First pillar is a strong understanding of who your ideal customer is and what they would really want out of your product. So first things first, when you look at your ideal customer, you have to look at your product. Sometimes, the order of operations here looks a little different. You probably have your product already. If you're listening to this, you have your product and you're trying to sell it. So you have your product right now. Maybe you haven't differentiated your product at all within your industry. You're just selling a candle because it smells great, or that it has a couple crystals in it, or you're just selling jewelry because, you like that you make some handmade jewelry. That isn't building brand. Brand has to have a deeper message and a deeper meaning behind your jewelry, behind your candles, behind the product that you are trying to sell. But before you can sell somebody something, you have to know who you're trying to sell it to. Because if you are trying to sell, again, if you are trying to sell a drink, like a tea at the end of the day that people would drink at the end of their night to like lull them into sleep, you have to know who you're speaking to. Because if you're speaking to like my grandpa, or you're speaking to my mom, or you're speaking to my brother who lives on a farm, those messaging that are going to attract those different people, that are going to intrigue them in order to buy, are going to look very different. The messaging that is actually, and their true desire of what they're going to get out of that product, is going to look very different based on who they are, based on what their true desires are, their motivations, their problems, and what this tea is solving. I drink a tea every single day before I go to bed. It solves most of my hormonal issues. It is literally a game-changing tea for me. But this tea marketed to my grandpa or my mom or my brother, you would have to use very different messaging to speak to them. I have PCOS and this tea helps me with that. I'm sure this tea could help everybody else in some sort of issue, some sort of problem that they have, but they would have to change the messaging because my grandpa is not having PCOS symptoms and was not having the same PMS symptoms that I'm having, that I'm trying to solve, that I have all these blood sugar issues. Somebody could sell me something for blood sugar issues. Like I could see one video that's like, these solved all of my blood sugar issues, like with just taking this supplement. I'm sold, but that might not sell to somebody that has that certain problem. I think it's really easy to look at this from a more medical sense. If you are trying to sell somebody something and they are selling it to you and they don't have the symptoms that you're saying that this product is going to solve, they aren't going to be drawn to that. So you have to know who your ideal customer is to know it doesn't just have to be symptoms, but what does their day-to-day life look like right now? What are they buying in place of it? And how can we really put messaging in there that is going to speak to that exact person based on what they are going through, based on what your product can actually do for them? The next one is really great messaging. It can't be boring. Messaging and building this brand kind of identity, this brand messaging of like how people feel when they come in contact with you is your tonality. It's the adjectives that you use. It's how you're really putting it out there. And messaging is what is communicating the overall feeling to somebody. We are trying to communicate your message that is setting yourself apart from everybody else. You hear me talk about this word as a differentiator, because within your industry, no matter what you're creating, whether you're creating oil lamps or vases or mugs or a beverage, no matter what you are creating, there are other things within the industry right now that people are using in place of your product. So how can you use your messaging and your differentiator to set you apart? Like if you really look at this from like, all of your industry, every product that every brand that is selling something similar to you, they all are like mapped out on this graph. How can you find a white space on that graph and say, this is what my brand stands for? How is mine so different than everybody else? And that is what we are constantly trying to find. When somebody comes to me and they have a product in a very saturated industry, I'm like, great, let's look at the greater industry and say, where is there a gap that you can fill? What messaging can we like put your stake in the ground on that people are going to naturally be like, holy cow, this is what I've been wanting out of the juicing world. This is what I've been wanting out of a crop top. This is what I've been wanting out of whatever it is. That is what you are trying to identify. And then you have to communicate that directly and clearly. And this can be big as like your slogan, your bio on your Instagram, and this can be as small as a hook on an Instagram that has to communicate a similar message throughout. They have to be cohesive. This also can be your packaging. A great example of communicating directly, easily, and effectively people's true desires based on messaging is Halo Top ice cream. If you've ever tried Halo Top ice cream, it's basically like a healthy alternative to ice cream. It's a low-calorie alternative to ice cream. And their packaging now basically is a pint of ice cream and it says like, $300 in the whole pint. Like eat it all, enjoy it, indulge, like guilt-free indulgence basically is what they are trying to create to you. So they changed their packaging from having like all of those badges on it. It was like, low fat, low carb, no sugar added, like whatever, all of those different things. A lot of them are, plant-based or whatever. They have a lot of different little like authority badges within their product line. And that was the packaging. And of course, because you are in a store when you're shopping for pints of ice cream, usually what people like, it blended into everybody else. It just didn't really stand out. You weren't really communicating the message that this was a healthier, low-calorie option. It just was saying like, oh yeah, there's like a bunch of features of this product. But then what they did is they sat back and they said, what is the true desire of somebody that is buying Halo Top ice cream? So we looked at the ideal customer and they said, people that are going to be willing to not eat full calorie ice cream, but yet they still want an indulgence and they're willing to have a healthier alternative that might not be as great, but they want to be able to eat the whole thing, is a specific ideal customer. It's a specific type of person. What are they interested in? They're interested in how much of this thing can they eat before it goes over their calorie amount or before it goes over the amount that they want to allot themselves. They're health conscious. They might be counting calories. And so what they did is they changed their packaging to say, like I said, from all of those badges to be whole pint $400 or $400, 400 calories in this whole pint. And so what that's explaining to people very clearly and easily within their messaging is you don't have to count your scoops. With this, you get to eat the whole dang pint guilt-free. So what they're looking at here is they looked at their ideal customer. They knew their true desire was to eat the whole dang pint of this ice cream, but yet they weren't communicating that message very effectively through the badges just because it was like a better for you option. They wanted to then change that messaging to say, no, literally eat the whole thing because it's guilt-free, 230 calories. So they did that. They made it big on the front. So when you're shopping through the grocery store, you're like, what do you mean 300 calories? You pick up the Ben & Jerry's and it's like 1,800 with like 120 grams of sugar. And then you pick up the Halo Top and you're like, what the heck? Like, wow, this really is a low calorie option. I'm going to go home. I'm going to put a movie on and I'm going to eat this whole thing, as opposed to getting a Ben & Jerry's and having to like, take a bite, take 2 bites and like putting it away. No, they're buying this ice cream because they wanted something yummy. They wanted a treat. They wanted an indulgence, and they want to be able to eat the whole thing. That's their true desire. That's what their ideal customer is feeling when they are picking out ice cream, when they are standing in that aisle. And then they decided to clearly communicate that message in a very bold and easy sense. Again, kind of a dramatic example is what you have to do for your brand is identify what that differentiator is. Their differentiator is that their product is a low calorie option. Who is their ideal customer? The person that wanted that low calorie option, but they wanted to indulge. What is their true desire? Their true desire is to be able to eat the whole dang thing. And then they said, great, here's how you can eat the whole thing. It's only 300 calories. And that is how they rapidly expanded. Once they changed their packaging, their sales rapidly expanded in person because they knew their ideal customer, they knew the true desire, and they communicated that message incredibly effectively. And then last but not least is aligned visuals. These 3 things kind of really correlate. It's almost like a triple Venn diagram. They all work really well together as aligned visuals. When we look at your aligned visuals, is meaning what is the feeling around that product and how can we visually communicate that, not with words, but with your visuals. So like if you had, let's say that there's an ice cream brand out there. It is, I don't know if this is actually exists. It's like the most organic, the cleanest ingredients, no sugar added, but it's delicious and yummy. It's like the cleanest, healthiest, lowest toxic ice cream, whatever that is, the cleanest on the market. I'm sure there's a brand out there that has this. I don't know the name of it. Let's say that their brand visuals was full of cookies and cake and sprinkles versus if their visuals was like white and beige with leaves and very clean. Now, I am somebody, as I've said, I have blood sugar issues that then spur on my PCOS symptoms. So I try to eat low sugar, low carb because it helps my hormonal issues, unfortunately. But if I were to look at those 2 brands, it's having something that has cookies and cake and sprinkles on something that is supposed to be a very natural alternative is not going to speak to me, but something that is very clean, looks very modern, is going to speak to me. And so what we're really looking for here is now that we've nailed down the messaging that is going to speak to these people, now that we've nailed down what their true desire is and how we can really magnetize people to this, how can we magnetize them visually? 90% of people are visually motivated, which means your first impression is based off of the visuals. So how can we take that image and then visually attract that type of person? So looking at a lot of different options here. I think there are so many great examples. One example of products that or brands that sell the exact same product, but they have very different visual brands. Let's look at Poppy, look at Olipop, and look at Pop Culture. Those 3 are like better for you sodas. I guess we're just having a theme of better for you options. That's kind of where my brain is, just because I'm always looking for healthier alternatives. But I think it's a really good option because they do have very distinct differentiators. They are basically taking something that was mass market and trying to bring a new idea out there. So Poppy Olipop, and pop culture. Poppy is very bold colors, very Gen Z marketing, very kind of groovy, fun. They're using Jake Shane, Alex Earl, like very top name Gen Z influencers to market their brand. Their marketing is very like it's very unserious. It's just kind of it's very TikTok. They grew very large on TikTok. They got that message out there. It's a very Gen Z brand. Olipop is more marketed actually to millennials. Olipop is more of like an 80s, almost like vintagey feel. When you come in contact with it, it almost feels like a classic diner cola when you come in contact like with the brand. It feels a little bit more welcoming. It feels kind of just like, again, it's almost like that vintagey kind of like wholesome vibe when you come in contact with Olipop. They're trying to kind of broach into other areas. Their comments on TikTok are always a little unhinged, but they're basically, they feel different because Poppy speaks very much so to bright colors, bold colors, Gen Z, like your daily day-to-day like clean girl is really who they're speaking to. Olipop is a little bit more on the lines of like, this is your average millennial. You're probably drinking this as opposed to soda. You're making mocktails, but like this is like your evening kind of treat with your kids at home. That is what their marketing speaks to. And then you look at pop culture. Pop culture takes a very scientific approach to teaching this. They talk about prebiotics. They talk about probiotics. They teach, what is that really going to do for you? What are the ingredients? This is what we have in ours, and these are the tangible benefits. And they are a little bit more of like a general, they still have color, but it is a little bit more scientific. It feels a little bit more like day-to-day, modern, attainable type of vibe. So you look at these three brands. Poppy has a very fun, bright, bold brand. Olipop has a very vintagey, wholesome type of brand. Pop culture has a very scientific, educational vibe when you come in contact with those brands. They all have a different ideal customer that would naturally feel called to all of those brands. Now, I have never liked Poppy or Olipop sodas, really. I've tried them, don't really like them. I don't think I've ever actually tried a pop culture, but I would be more drawn to the pop culture side of things because I know that they're taking a scientific approach. It feels more intentional. It feels more like I'm going to actually get the product that has the best ingredients because they're taking that. Now that is my true desire. That is something that I really look at. I'm very deep down the wellnessy rabbit hole. All right. And pop culture is one that seems like they are speaking more to the wellness gal that like cares about what the ingredients inside. These other two are just trying to make millennials or Gen Z make a better for you option. And so what they're seeing here is they have their ideal customer that they're trying to speak to, the message that they're trying to communicate, and the lens that they're trying to speak to it on, and then the visuals that are going to represent that. Like a lot of pop culture videos will have, I think it's pop culture, I hope I'm getting that right, have people in like white coats and things like that that look almost like doctors or whatever. Whereas again, we had Alex Earl, we have Jake Shane. Olipop, honestly, I don't see much of their marketing. They do a little bit, they did like that collaboration. They did a big giveaway of some sort, kind of like a brand trip. But again, it's never felt quite as Gen Z as Poppy. So what they did here is they took those three different pieces. And so what we're really looking at for your brand is I want you to identify what stake are you putting into the ground, into your brand, within your industry. What sets your product apart? This is something I do with every single one of my clients. So where are you putting your stake in the ground? What makes your brand different? What makes your product different? And how can we really move that baby and like really put it down there? And then how can we educate your audience on that? How can we communicate that message? So that comes up with coming up with a really great kind of meaning statement. And that comes coming up with content ideas that are going to build on that message, that is what your brand is building. And that is what your brand really stands for. And so what we have to do is we basically identify who your brand is at the core. How do you want people to feel? And that is what fuels your marketing, your sales, your copy, your website, everything else. So before you even dive into the marketing strategy, you need to have a really strong brand identity, understanding of who are you trying to attract, what is the messaging that is going to communicate that, the overall meaning behind your brand, and what are the visuals that are going to create it. Before I even started an Instagram, I would start there if I had a product-based business. And so no matter if I have brought your brand mass market, or if we are bringing it to market, or if you are already out there, those three pillars are absolutely necessary. And too many of you hear this on my podcast podcast and have never implemented it. These are the three major pillars that we have to start with. I want to give a couple of more examples that I think are doing really, really well out there. And really, a lot of these examples look at, they are differentiating based on the brand and what they really share. And so I want to put these within this framework that we're sharing today. Graza Olive Oil. Graza Olive Oil, I don't know if you've seen it within your grocery store. I feel like it's just popping up. But Graza Olive Oil basically took an industry that was really boring, took an industry that everybody had like the same old, same old. I've always said that if I had a product or like a food product that I was trying to get into a grocery store, I would roam the grocery store and try to find an aisle that everything was boring, and I would make one that just had a really fun brand. That's basically what my first two examples did. The first example is Graza Olive Oil. Graza Olive Oil basically took the olive oil industry and made the branding really fun. It says like sizzle, like it's in a squirt bottle, so it kind of feels fun. Instead of like pouring it out, you're having some fun with it. They have a cute little caricature on the bottle. It's almost like a mascot of the Graza olive oil. And it's a very fun, again, it's very much so marketed to people that love a good brand. And that's all that they did. But their messaging is really great. You know, they're talking about some olive oil is better for cooking, some olive oil is better for drizzling. So they have the sizzle, they have the drizzle, and they have really fun marketing and messaging around it. They have fun little phrases on the packaging. They've done a really great job with it. What they did is they knew their ideal customer was someone like me. I literally bought this the other day at the grocery store because I didn't even need olive oil. Like I had a whole thing of avocado oil, but I thought it was really cute. And I was like, yep, that's me. I'm going to get that one, put it in the cart, spent the $17.99 before I needed to because I just loved the brand. I'm their ideal customer. I'm somebody that loves a brand, loves to like feel like my products are kind of fun, loves a clean product. They talked about how it's either organic or put some sort of authority into it. And then they put a cute little brand onto it. It made me buy it because I'm their ideal customer. My true desire is that when I'm cooking, it makes it a little bit more fun. Their messaging really got me when they were talking about, you know, all of their fun little verbiage. I'm a killer for some fun little brand messages on packaging. I'm in for it. And the aligned visuals like immediately drew me into it. So the magnetization came from the brand visuals. The messaging sold me, and they were just talking directly to me as to what my true desire is. They were creating that very effectively. Another great example here is Hot Girl Pickles. Pickles, another industry that's been really boring for, you know, as long back as I can remember. Pickle industry has always been kind of boring. I feel like there's like 3 brands. I couldn't tell you the name of them. And what these girls did is they basically wanted to make pickles for Gen Z and Gen Alpha, maybe young millennials, and they made a really fun brand of pickles. And so again, a little caricature. I think that's something that's going to be really popular in the next like 5 years that we're going to look back and be like, wow, that was trendy, not very timeless, but it is something that a lot of people are doing is they have like these little hand-drawn stick figure kind of caricatures, and they put a really fun brand behind it. They have like Playboy, Vogue, lip gloss, like fluffy dice. Like their marketing is really, really fun. So what they did is they took a brand, or they took an industry that they knew ideal customers. Like there are so many Gen Zs that are pickle obsessed, but there wasn't an actual brand made for them. They looked at the pickle industry and said, why isn't there a pickle made for the girlies? And they made that dang pickle for the girlies, and they have been sold out everywhere. They're in Erewhon, and now they're starting to go mass market. Last but not least is Odd Muse. On a very other end of the spectrum here, Odd Muse is a brand, like a clothing brand that's based out of, I think it's the UK. And Amy Smalley is the founder. I love her. She does a vlog on YouTube every week, and she basically creates a vlog talking about the behind the scenes of her business. She did a really good job building her personal brand that way. But the actual professional brand, what they did is it basically is like chic workwear where it's business casual, but it's following the day-to-day trends that are popular right now as well. So you can kind of like feel good while you work. So they looked at their ideal customer. They said, what does my ideal customer really want in workwear? It's like they want to still look cute. They don't want to feel like frumpy business casual. What is their true desire is to look dang cute when they walk in to that office. What is the messaging that they want to share? That is the message. They want to share that. And how can we directly communicate that? I think the word muse is a perfect word, and they use the word muse a lot. It is in their brand name, but they use it a lot in their messaging. And their messaging is all about kind of this chic workwear type of vibe. Their visuals are in Paris and Italy with like vintage cars, and they have a really great job of calling that in. Of course, their product is at the core foundation of this, is their products are awesome. They're very unique and they are very trendy and cute, but they've done such a great job with building the brand ecosystem that when you come in contact with it, you already feel chic. You're like, man, I know if I put that on, I think I could conquer the world. I could hit every goal I've ever want to hit just because I have this clothes on. That is how you want people to feel when they come in contact with your brand. So I want you to think about your brand right now. What is the message that your brand has? If you're like, Maddie, I don't have one, step one right there. Do that today. If I want you to think about what is your stake in the ground moment? Where are you putting, and you can't say that it's an all natural alternative. I know we talked a lot about those today, but there are too many all natural skincare brands. There are too many all natural candles, things like that. We need for you to find one that isn't also already out there in a saturated way. So like, again, my tallow girlies, if you're a tallow gal out there, you can no longer differentiate based on having tallow in your products. There are too many tallow products out there. You now have to find a new differentiator within the industry. If you are making all natural candles or like the body candles, I have a client right now that had the body candles. It was kind of her signature product for a long time. She sold a bunch of them, and I'm like, yeah, but like those body candles are everywhere. I could do a quick search on Amazon, on Etsy. They're everywhere. That can't be your signature product. That can't be how we're differentiating. What is it about your brand that you want people to feel when they come in contact with you? That is where you're putting your stake in the ground. So I want you to think right now, what is your messaging? Who is your ideal customer? How well do you know them? Do you know your true desires? And then when we look at those different pieces, what is the messaging that you're using in order to communicate that? Can people tell that that is what your mission is behind your brand immediately upon finding your Instagram? You need to do that. You need to communicate that within 6 seconds of somebody seeing your product in order for people to really feel that it's being communicated effectively. I want you to think of your brand right now as if it was on a shelf with all of your other competitors. I want you to think of it like, okay, these are all of our other brands. Maybe it's like a flyer of your brand, putting it on the shelf, all of them out there. Why is somebody going to be drawn to yours over everybody else's? I think of like the sauce aisle a lot when you walk into sauces, and there's barbecues and there's aiolis and there's all of this. I'm a killer for like a yummy aioli sauce or something like that. That looks like super artesian. That looks like it's like made, whipped up in somebody's grandma's kitchen, right? That's what I'm looking for. But there's some people that you look in that sauce aisle and they're going to be drawn to the ones that are more rugged, that are more like barbecue, and there's like a grill on it, and there's wood, and it's like almost like whiskey and things like that. That's going to draw in somebody else. Me, I want like a modern touches. I want white and black packaging. I want very simple verbiage, maybe a cute little caricature or like some cute little phrase or something like that. That's fine. If it has a fun name, I'm in. Like, I'm an easy sell based on brand, because I care about ingredients, but that's just like the icing on the cake for me, especially with a sauce. You're not going to get too many sauces that are that clean. And so what you're doing is, if you look at your product on a shelf with all of the other brands within there, why are your ideal customer, when they walk by, going to be naturally drawn to that product? I think we too often think of the online world as different than the in-person world. If you can't tell why your ideal customer would be drawn to your brand over other options, you probably don't have a solid enough understanding of the foundations of your brand and what it actually takes to build a solid brand. And if you want a brand that is going to be in Urban Outfitters, if you want a brand that is going to be in Sam's Club or go mass market and have a really large impact, you need to build brand first. Building brand is what is going to communicate the right message, magnetize the right people, and really help you stand out within your industry. If you want a brand that withstands industry saturation, that builds an incredible community and makes a lot of sales and has potential for the mass market approach, you need to focus on these major pieces that we created here If you have any questions on this, you know that I absolutely love, love, love to hear from you. I'm so glad that you're here. I just want to give you a quick little thank you for spending this time with me today. You don't have to be here. You don't have to be binging this podcast. And I'm so glad that you are. It really tells a lot about who you are as a person. And I'm so glad to have you in my community. Make sure that you reach out. I love to stalk your brand, see what's going on. My Instagram is @thisismadisonpage. Would love to chat with you there. If you have any other questions for me, as always, you can join my podcast community. We will be chatting about brand today. I will be answering your questions personally and providing some insight and some extra support to my community members all about this topic. So you can click the link in the show notes. It's a completely free community if you want to connect with other small business owners. If you want to get more support from me, exclusive trainings, things like that, feel free to pop on in there. I hope you are having a wonderful day. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always, and I will see you in the next episode.